guys, we're here. Oops, sorry, I had to prop my computer up because it was getting a bit warm. So I've had to precariously balance it on something at the back. And I'm not sure if it's going to stay there, but as long as I don't touch it, it'll be fine. How are you all? Hello, hello. I'm a bit, I haven't got a cold, but something keeps making me sneeze. So every so often I might sneeze at you. Here we've got, hi Chrissy, hi Deborah, hi Foxy. Anybody else who's watching, my stream hasn't caught up with you yet. Hopefully this stream will be a little bit better than it normally is, because for a start I remembered to turn the sound on, so you should be able to hear me, and I'm actually cabled, so instead of streaming over Wi-Fi I'm streaming over an actual cable, so you should be able to hear me fairly well. Sorry, I'm just looking at my, oh my goodness me, my charger. Look at my charger. I need a new charger, don't you? I don't like that. Bare wires. I'll have to put some electrical tape around that. So, I hope we're all well. This is a Witchy Wednesday live, not a journal chat live. However, oh, you want me to turn it up a bit? Is it quiet for everybody or just Foxy? If it's just Foxy, she needs to turn it up a bit. It could also be my voice, because I'm a bit sneezy and weird. Let me just turn it up a tad. Hopefully that'll be better. Oh, it's a bit quiet. Okay, I'll turn it up a bit more then. Yeah. Hi, Janice. The thing is, some people will be able to hear it and other people won't. It kind of depends on your speakers, but Foxy, I know, like me, has partial hearing, so I tend to gauge everything by her. If she can hear it okay, then it's generally all right. Right, okay. Well, Foxy says that's okay now, so the rest of you hopefully can hear me better as well, and if I'm now too loud, you can turn down, that's fine. Yes, this is a Witchy Wednesday chat today, not a journal chat, but it's still about making pretty books. It's just that it's spiritual books instead of just a journal. It's very similar, it's almost identical stuff, kind of the same thing. Some of you who come to the journal chats might see the odd bit of repetition, but we do different things. So I'm going to get cracking because I don't want to be on all day. I'm slowly getting back. I used to do live teaching regularly, like online teaching regularly, and I used to do teaching face-to-face all day at the college, and I'm kind of out of practice of jumping in and being, you know, hitting the ground running and starting within 5 minutes. So yes, I need to get cracking and start knowing what I'm doing right from the beginning. But it helps having the 5 minutes of chat at the beginning, because it gives people time to get here and sort the sound out, make sure they can see, go make a cup of tea if they forgot to do it. I'm not on tea today, I'm on Coke, I'm afraid. I need a bit of sugar. I don't normally drink caffeinated drinks, I usually drink iron brew, which is good for you. Well, it's not bad for you, let's put it that way. I don't normally drink Coke, it's too acidic, but I need the caffeine. The sound is synced. Excellent! That's because that is part of the issue we were having, that the sound and the video weren't synced very well, and the video was going green and pixelated, and that's where obviously the issues were coming from in terms of streaming over Wi-Fi. So I'm glad that's working, that's good. I'm trying to move it so that, there you go. It bugs me that you can see the corner of that door. The door needs to be like 6 inches further that way. There we go. So silly. Anyway, welcome to Witchy Wednesday live. This is, I think, number 22 or 23. I honestly have no idea. I lost count. It is the second live stream I've done, so oh, well, we've only just started. It'll be on, I'll probably be on for about either 2 or 3 hours, depending on how much we get done. I've allowed for 3, but I'm kind of hoping to plan for 2, if I can get a wiggle on. But it will be recorded, hopefully, and uploaded. But I can't record it at the moment, so the one I did on Saturday with the Gothic Inspirations, I'm going to have to re-record it as a proper video because it didn't upload to YouTube. I don't know what happened, but you've only got 3.5 minutes of it, which is a shame because it was a good session, that one. Anyway, let's get cracking. I'm going to switch you over. Just to remind you, if you want to talk specifically to me, you need to put it in caps in the chat because I can't see it otherwise. Excuse me. It's okay when I'm sitting looking at the chat, but when I'm doing other stuff and I'm just glancing up, I look for caps. Let's switch you round and I'll show you what goodies we've got to show you today. And we're starting with some colouring book inspirations because... Oh, that's a bit... Well, that's not... That's quite annoying because I've already... I already focused this once. Now there's going to be a delay. Sorry, guys. I don't have autofocus on this. I've got a manual focus. I don't like autofocus. It's not as crisp as it normally is. Ah, there we go. So we're starting off with a bit of colouring book inspiration because obviously colouring books are the in thing at the moment. Everybody and their wife has got one and their kids and everybody else. And they're collecting them but not necessarily using them. So I thought I'd give you a few ideas of the kind of things you can use for words. Come on, words. I'm watching the chat and reading it instead of thinking about what I'm saying. Things you can do with colouring books for your Book of Shadows instead of just colouring them in or just using them in your journal. A few different things that you could use. Now, it seems odd to start with a book of vampires. This is the Dover Colouring Book of Vampires by Marty Noble. Now, these are not great. The paper quality is not great. You know, it's not the best book in the world. It's a bit twee. Frankly, I like it because I'm a goth and I like this kind of stuff. Let me just see if I can focus this a little bit better again. This is, sorry, it's bugging me because it's so cloudy. Now, before everybody starts, where did you buy these? Where did you buy these? Oh my God, I need one. Right? I buy everything on Amazon or The Works in the UK. So if you don't live in the UK, you won't be able to get them from The Works. If you have access to Amazon, you can buy anything I buy, okay? I buy everything on Amazon or eBay, whichever's cheapest. And quite often I will buy from the Book Depository on Amazon because it's a bit cheaper and it works out better for me. But there's one already, Leslie. Oh, where's the vampire one from? If you go to my website, Foxy, would you put the link in for me, please, if you wouldn't mind, if you're able to, http:// ready? rhomany.org.uk. Now, there seems to be a bit of a thing about whether you can access it in the menu or not on the mobile, so I need to check it. On a computer, if you go to the top right-hand side, it says Ro Recommends, and in there is my A-store for Amazon. If you're in the UK or the EU, you can find these. They're all listed. A couple of them aren't. The next one I'm going to show you isn't listed yet, but most of them are listed already. So if you want to buy them and you're in the UK or the EU, you can get them through my Amazon A store and I get like 0.3% of something eventually. If you are in the US, use journalartista.com. Paula has an A store as well. It's on the left-hand side of her site. You can click on, I think, where it says A store. It takes you into the search facility, and you can find anything I've listed in my A store. Just copy the name of it and put it into her A store, and she'll get a little bit of money for anything you buy off Amazon. Because, you know, us artists got to make a living somehow. We've got to keep them puppies in wonky jobs, haven't we? Right. This is the Dover Colouring Book of Vampires, Marty Noble. And obviously, you know, Book of Shadows, you're probably not going to be... You might do one page on vampires. Let me see if I can get this to focus better on the black and white. Clean the lens as well. It's difficult with the manual focus because I set it up before I started and now it's not focused properly again. Which is extremely annoying. There we go, let's try that. Yeah, vampires, you might want to do one page in your Book of Shadows on vampires. It's unlikely that you'd want to use all of them. However, things like this, I mentioned this on the show in the Gothic Inspirations show last week. Things like this is beautiful. You know, look at her wraps and everything. And she's got a bat on her cloak, but you could turn that into a butterfly really easily. She's got a butterfly here, butterflies at the back, stained glass windows. But look at her face. I mean, if you got rid of the 2 teeth and the drop of blood by colouring over them or whiting them out or whatever, you know, you could turn her into a witch. Or just a pagan, or just a dancing girl, or just a pretty embellishment for your book. You don't have to say, oh, well, it's Gothic, so it's vampires, I've got to do this. Look at this, the boy there. He doesn't even look like a vampire. But he's sitting with the moon, and he's sitting in a tree with like a snow staff. Wouldn't he be a lovely Yule god? So you've got to think outside the box. You've got to not think of it as, oh yes, but they're vampires, so I can't use them in my Book of Shadows because vampires don't exist. You've got to think, well, hang on a minute. How can I use elements of this? There are bits that you're not going to want to use. I mean, I don't think he's going to make an appearance. But look at the, you know, take him out of it and look at that beautiful design there with the, it's a wyvern, isn't it? A snake dragon. And his beautiful wings there, and the pillars. Wouldn't that look lovely as an opening thing on your page? And there's both sides, so you could colour those in and cut them out and get rid of him. You could even use that candelabra, you know, if you cut out his fingers on either side, it leaves a bit of a stripe, but you could... Ah, thank you, Eve. That's the link for my A store, if anybody wants to find these for EU or UK. If you cut on either side of him and then whited out or coloured over or painted over where his fingers are, you could use the candelabra. You've just got to use your imagination. Again, here's a beautiful edging. The gargoyles. I've got a thing for gargoyles and Celtic knots. This is beautiful. I love this. That's the kind of thing I would cut out and use. And you don't even have to, like, fussy cut it. You could cut it along that line there. So you could literally cut it along that arch and have the whole arch. A lot of these are borders that you could use, like this. Again, you could... For what's there of him, you could paint over that and draw it in. Beautiful rose motif there that you could cut out. Obviously you could use her. Could certainly use her. She doesn't look like a vampire. You could even give her wings and turn her into an angel or a fairy or something like that. Another one, you could cut off, colour over her teeth, and she's just a pretty witch who's got a skull in her hands. So if you like darker motifs in your Book of Shadows, then she might be a good illustration for Hecate or something like that. There's another one. If you got rid of the vampire teeth, she's very Alphonse Mucha. Oh, hi, Caitlin. She's very Alphonse Mucha, so she'd make a lovely design. You could even use that, 2 halves of that, like trace the 2 halves and turn that into a full mandala. So lots of potential. This is one of my favourites. Get rid of her. What I would do with this page would be to scan it in, reduce it to the size of my Book of Shadows, and I use GIMP, G-I-M-P, which is, it's the MIT's version of Photoshop, and it's completely free. It works on everything. I would use GIMP, and I would go in and just erase her from around here so that I had a blank piece, and then you could print that out and use it for a spell or something if you wanted to. So there's lots and lots of potential for something like this, even to just copy the designs. And as well, it comes with, it's got males as well as females. Well, he's a witch hunter, isn't he? Look at the shape of his hat. I mean, it's a book on vampires. He's obviously supposed to be Van Helsing, isn't he? Look at that hat and his Puritan collar. So if you're doing something on maybe the witch trials, or, you know, witch hunter generals, or anything like that, the history of witchcraft, that would be a really good illustration to use, something unusual to use. Okay, so that's that one. I'm going to move swiftly on. This is one of my favourites. Again, fantastic for borders. This is the Colour and Create Celtic Designs, and it's by Arcturus, is it? Or Octopus? It's one of them. Octopus Books. Now, this is a UK book, but you can get these all over. You know, there's, yeah, Arcturus does one, and I think Dover has several. They've got one coming out at the end of the month. There's all sorts. And these are fantastic for kind of illuminated letters pages. So there's an E, they've got alphabets at the back. They haven't got every letter, obviously, but, you know, they've taken ideas from the Book of Shadows. The Ravens. Not the Book of Shadows, the Book of Kells. So you've got animal totems and letters and things. Pretty designs. All the animals, the roosters and the dogs, and look, even these, butterflies and owls and dragonflies and cats and snakes. So there's some that are very, you know, heavy, Celtic, rugged looking designs, and there's others that are very light and pretty looking. And if you don't want to destroy your book, you can just trace over them, or, you know, learn to draw something like this on grid paper so that you can transfer it into your Book of Shadows, use it as design elements. The thing is, you're only creating things in your own Book of Shadows. So it doesn't matter if you take pages out of the book, it doesn't matter if you photocopy the page and copy it, or if you copy the design or whatever. It's only going in your personal book that probably nobody else will ever see. So it really doesn't matter if you're taking these designs and using them. Some of these you could even take straight out. I mean, there's a Brigid's cross with the Celtic cross with the rising sun, and the Brigid's cross with the equal arms. There's even these, which are sayings, and it's got, these are in Celtic, and they've got the sayings underneath. This one translates as, "If there is not much food, it is generous to share," which is nice stuff to put in your Book of Shadows. You know, even if you're not into this kind of thing, you know, do some lettering. Copy the lettering. There's lots of different types of the alphabets in here. So there's a thinner alphabet there if you wanted to use it. So that's a really good one. And like I say, any Celtic designs are going to be very much the same thing. And those of you who watched a previous stream of mine, this is quite a while back now, I did these and actually showed you how to colour them in. So these were pre-drawn. I'd already drawn them up, because actually drawing them is quite difficult to teach. It's very technical and you have to think about it. But colouring them in like this, you know, I showed you live how to do this. So if you look back in my videos, you'll see there's a thing on Celtic knots and how to do them. Or how to shade them like this. If you are not so much into the Gothic, and you want something a little bit of variety, then you might want to go towards a steampunk style designs. This is a very popular book. It's one of the Creative Haven books, and the thing I love about these books is that they have no double-sided pages. They're all single-sided pages, and they're perforated, so you can tear them out easily. So you can take these out, put them straight in your Book of Shadows as elements, cut them up, whatever you want to do really. Obviously they're a bit stylised, but there's still elements of it that you could use. And like I said with the vampires, it only takes a little bit of, yeah, a little bit of extra collage, or a bit of whiteout, or a bit of white acrylic paint. And you can transform this into just a pretty girl with a top hat or something like that. So that's another option. If you prefer to use animals, these are great. This is the Art Therapy Anti-Stress series. There are about 40 different ones of these. They've all got different things. This is the fox, there's a cat, there's a tiger, there's a rabbit, there's a rooster, there's a hen. They've all got different colours on the front, and all got different designs, and they're all different inside. But these have colours pre-added. So if you're not even, you like the designs but you're not even into colouring particularly, you know, you can get ideas from here. You know, doodling extra bits on the borders. You could cut these out and use them as borders, or even copy them into your book. There's a nice design that would be beautiful for the sun god. Depiction of water. You've just got to use your imagination. Look at these, aren't these beautiful? The sun and moon. I absolutely adore these two. I wish this one didn't go off the page, but I do like that. But that said, that would be easy enough to recreate. You know, you only need to trace that bit, turn it round and put it on there. And of course it's got loads of animals in it, loads of easy designs. My totem animal for this year has been an elephant, and I'm going to scan this one in, shrink it down so it fits in my book. Sorry, has the camera slipped? Let's move that. There we go, that's better. Cut this down, scan it in, or rather scan it in, cut it down, reprint it, and use that as a totem in my book, because this is way too big for my book. And I love this book anyway. I probably wouldn't want to pull this one apart, and it's glue bound, so it would be difficult to do that. But how beautiful would that be if you're going to embellish a totem? Butterflies for you to embellish, leaves, even something as simple as just tracing the outlines and colouring them in like the seasonal colours. You could use that for fall or Maybon or even Halloween at a push. So lots and lots and lots of pretty designs in here. How about this? How about making this? And again, all of these, for me, I would have to cut them down because this book is huge and my Book of Shadows isn't. But what about copying this into your Book of Shadows and cutting it so that the doors open? So you could cut it along there, and along there. Put little brads on it, or even like one of those, one of these kind of closures. How cool would that be to use as, maybe put shelves, draw shelves behind it, and have little jars labelled with like all the herbs that you've got listed behind it, or you know, use it as an index page. So you might have, you know, basil page 19 or whatever. So it'd be like a little witch's cabinet. More designs, more crazy designs. These are a bit heavy for me. I don't like these ones so much, but I love that one. Look at that wolf, isn't he beautiful? It's my spirit totem. I absolutely adore him. He's beautiful. He'll be going in my book of shadows. Nikki, do you ever sleep? What is it, like 4 o'clock in the morning for you there? He's beautiful. So yeah, lots and lots you can pull out of here. Little birds, hummingbirds, cats. Wouldn't that be cool for a familiars page, if you've got a cat familiar? Simple designs. Anybody's familiar an octopus? Again, these are listed in my A store. Eve linked it above, so if you scroll up the chat a little bit, there's the fox from the front page, redrawn. Isn't he beautiful? He's in different colours there. This is my favourite page in the whole book. Look at this. Okay, even if you're not artistic and you can't colour worth anything and you don't want to colour, would this not just be absolutely awesome to cut out and put on the front of your book as like a frontispiece? Because a lot of books are blank at the front. Would that not just be awesome to just use as just a front page? Just an introductory page. Even if you don't want to decorate. So yeah, that's the art therapy book. And like I said, there's hundreds of these, but I've put this one in my shop. There's also this one. Now this one I was a bit disappointed in because I thought the backgrounds were black, but they're not, they're all white. But you could colour them black, right? And these are more lifelike. More lifelike, more realistic. And there's a wider range of animals. So again, animal totems, snake symbolism, jellyfish. Anybody got a jellyfish as a familiar? Beautiful fox. Birds. Doodle some more crows. So you could use this page to copy those, to doodle some more crows and practice making them. Embellish another elephant. He's gorgeous, I love him. And you can always paint over these. If you don't want the little characters in it, you can always paint over them, but I like these. I like the mix of very, very realistic and sort of kawaii little jellyfish. Look at these, aren't they cute? Monkeys, turtles, lions, bats. Love that one. Fish, zebras, cheetahs, everything in here. And there's a couple of different ones of these as well. I think there's another one coming out in November, I believe. If you are less into colouring and more into drawing, I did show this one last week, but it's worth showing again. This is the Dark Art Draw and Paint Witches and Their Worlds by Bob Hobbs. Now it's aimed towards fantasy, but you can't really go wrong with a book like this. I mean, it's got so many amazing walkthroughs. It's got all sorts of symbols and imagery. Yes, it's going to be aimed towards fantasy, but it's got the different alphabets in. Do check. I'm not sure if Bob... I've been trying to find out if he's actually linked with witchcraft himself, because some of the information in this book, all the information that I've looked up in this book and double checked, is accurate. So I don't know if he's just one heck of a researcher, or if he's actually, you know, perhaps Wiccan or Pagan himself. But a lot of this is accurate, but I would say double check it anyway, because there's so many different traditions. You know, what a symbol might mean to you might be something completely different. But yeah, we've got all the astrology symbols and sigils. It shows you how to draw landscapes and things, which would be quite nice if you just want to decorate your book. No particular thing, you just want to decorate it in some way. But there's also like drawing a wizard's chamber. He walks you through drawing a wizard's chamber. Well, what if you drew a witch's desk or your altar or something like that? You know, this would walk you through step by step. And even if you only did this, it's still a drawing, isn't it? You've still made a start. It doesn't have to look like this at the end. Different versions of people. Obviously, there's some fantasy animals and things. He'd be a good depiction of like Loki or something like that, if you want to do the Norse myths. Oh, he's a fairy witch, apparently. Crone, anybody? If you want to have a sense of humour about it, you know, you could start with something like this. And then it's got things like this, the amulets and talismans. Well, wouldn't this be cute to do like a dreamcatcher page, how to make a dreamcatcher, but then draw the dreamcatcher yourself? That would be really nice, wouldn't it? Or even, you know, again, because it's personal use, you're not selling it, you're not passing it on, probably nobody else will ever see it. You could photocopy this and cut it out and stick it in your book if you really wanted to, and colour it in. There's nothing stopping you doing that. Drawing cloaks and things, chalices, candles. So here's all the bits for your altar. Here's your altar and its layout. And you could just redraw the individual bits. So maybe your chalice doesn't look like that. Maybe your chalice looks a bit more like that. So you could draw that one in there. Or, you know, maybe your candles, you don't have plain tower candles like that. You've got a skull candle. So use a skull candle, draw it in there. You just got to use a little bit of imagination. Wands and staffs. Use a basic wand and embellish it to how you have your wand. This is quite a common kind of design with the jewel at the end, or a leather wrapped one with a crystal at the end. Conical hat. And again, it doesn't have to end up looking like this or coloured. You could just have it like this. It still looks like a conical hat. Okay, make it a little bit more materially looking and add a belt. It still looks like a conical hat. Would be great for someone who's a D&D dungeon master. Do you know, that's why I bought it. Because I'm a role player. And I like to design my characters. Jewellery. There's all sorts of things. And obviously it's got the basics at the beginning. So that is a really good one for if you want to start drawing your own stuff. And then we've got my personal favourites. Let's do this one first. We've got the Gothic Halloween book, which I showed you the other day. So some of you will have already seen this. Obviously, some of it is not suitable for using in your Book of Shadows. I don't think anybody would want to do eyeball and worm spaghetti bolognese in their Book of Shadows. But how fun! Isn't it fun to colour with? It's fun to play with, just to test your colouring skills. How about this one? You do a page on voodoo dolls. Colour her in. If you were doing a page on, again, I suppose voodoo comes to mind straight away, but anything to do with skulls and bones, like death, burial, afterlife, reincarnation, anything like that. Dia de los Muertos. There's a really nice border you could cut out and use in your book. And these are by Terry, I can never remember her surname. Terry, what's your surname? Terry Sherman. She does some amazing, like, pagan drawings and things like that. Isn't this cute? Little witch's cottage. Or witch's mansion, I should say. Angel of Death. Diablo. Again, you know, it's unlikely that you would have a picture of the devil in your Book of Shadows, but, you know, perhaps you would want to use his trident for Neptune or something like that. Jack Sparrow, anyone? Again, unlikely to make it to your Book of Shadows, but she's beautiful. I love this one. And there's another one just a little bit further up that I really like as well. I think this one is probably going to end up in my Book of Shadows, in the potions section. She's kind of a pumpkin maiden with jack-o'-lanterns, so, you know, she'd be perfect for Samhain or something like that. Again, the Voodoo Queen, Dia de los Muertos. Where's just a floral, a pretty floral. Even if you don't like the cobweb design, you could cut out the rose, fussy cut it and use that. Gargoyles and things, borders and kaleidoscopes. Eyeballs, anybody want to... I have Newt. Cobwebs, again that would be nice just as a design. Another one good for Halloween, Day of the Dead type stuff. A cute little kitty. A witch and a cute little kitty. If you prefer the kind of anime type stuff. She's pretty, I like her. And you could even, I mean, you don't even have to keep her wings. You could cut out the wings, or you could give her fairy wings, or angel wings, or butterfly wings. She doesn't have to be sitting on a pumpkin. You know, she doesn't have to be holding a pumpkin. You could white that out and turn it into a crystal ball. Turn her into a fortune teller. Another witch in a graveyard type witch. Here's the other one I like. Isn't she beautiful? I think she'd be really nice in a section on animals. Voodoo Queen. And I like this guy. He's my favourite, I think. He reminds me of Papa Legba and Baron Samedi. You know, the Loa? Is that what they're called? The voodoo spirits. Again, nice designs for you to use. So that's the Gothic Halloween Scary Adult Colouring Book from Blue Star. And I believe that is a UK printing as well. Yeah, it's a UK printing, but it's printed through Amazon, so you should be able to get that one in the States. And this is obviously the best one, because this is witches and vampires and cats and things. So, you know, for those of you who like the pretty Amy Brown kind of girly pictures. Again, we can change things like this. She doesn't have to have jack-o'-lanterns. She could have hanging baskets with herbs coming out of it or something. A little bit of imagination and you're all set. She's got an owl. She's just really beautiful. Look at all that detailing. Some of them are very, very simple and some of them are very ornate, like this one. And then there's the little cute ones. Again, she doesn't have to have wings, or she could have wings, or she could have something different. She'd be really beautiful as a Maybon witch in all different browns and oranges. And again, single-sided. It's not perforated, but you know that wouldn't stop me taking it apart. I'd just use a craft knife and a ruler along this edge, just take the spine off it. But this one is single-sided, so you can use both sides. You can take it out and cut it in. Should be good for May, doing your little dance. She'd be very easy to turn into an angel instead of a bat. A little bit of collage. Again, this one very, very ornate. She's very cute. If you were careful with this one, you could actually find one of the bigger cats, or even redraw a cat. Look, there's one. She's got her arm across with a cat on her lap. Well, if you don't want a pumpkin on here, you could white that pumpkin out. And when I say white it out, I mean literally you could paint it out with acrylic paint or gesso or something like that. Or you could photocopy this, or scan it rather, into GIMP or Photoshop, and erase that literally and put the cat back in. So you could use this bit of cat here and put it back in, or you could redraw or even photocopy and resize that cat so that you've got him the right size to sit there. So you can have her with 2 cats instead of a pumpkin. She doesn't have to be a Halloween witch. Sorry, I keep banging that against. It's got a really hard spine and I'm banging it against the table. These are cute, aren't they adorable? These remind me of the Gorgeous Girls. Suzanne Woolliscroft. A little vampire and a little witch. Another cutie with cats. Obviously there's going to be a lot of cats because it's witches. Those are cute, I like those. Those are very like the Gorgeous Girls. So yeah, you don't have to be able to draw or create or do things yourself in your Book of Shadows. Look for something like this that you can use just to decorate it if you want to. You don't even have to colour these in. If you really want to, you could leave them blank. And just have them as drawings. Just for a bit of variety, to break up writing. Or to break up sections, or something like that. Now, the other day, or last week rather, I showed you this one and I was testing out the pages and seeing how the pages worked with different mediums and things like that, to see if there was any way we could salvage this paper. And I think the general consensus... My camera's slipped again. What is going on today? They do need some curvy witches, yeah. Instead of all these stick thin ones. Maybe that's something we could put. Oh, Caitlin, can you actually, I'll write it down. Let me write it down. That's a good idea. I could do that as because I draw curvy girls. We could redraw one of those witches as a curvy girl, so I can show you how to do it. Because again, you don't have to have all the ideas yourself. You can use somebody else's idea to inspire you and redraw it how you want it. So if you really like one of those, we could make her into a little plumper or a little older or, you know, something like that. Anyway, the general consensus was that the only way to salvage this paper is to use gesso, clear gesso, and that is not a great... For me, that's not going to work because I can't stand the touch of it. It feels like a curvy kitchen witch, yes. It feels like it's rough. I don't like it. It's really rough. I don't like things that set my teeth on edge. So this book, much as I do love it, and I will keep the cover, I will probably unbind it, find out how it's put together, unbind it, put in watercolour paper or something like that, and then rebind it. And obviously if I do that, I will show you how I do it. It looks like a fairly simple binding. It shouldn't be too difficult to recreate. Now, as it happens, I haven't done an awful lot in this book because I got so frustrated with the paper. It was already all right for writing in because it takes gel pen quite nicely. I've got a rollable gel pen. It takes it really well. It takes ink quite well. It doesn't like pencil at all. You cannot erase on it. You can do rub-ons, but they're a bit hit and miss. This is Distress ink, which worked okay. It's all right with glues and stuff, but it takes a while to stick. It's just too frustrating. I'm not doing as much in it. I've had this book a year, and I'm not doing anything in it because it's too frustrating to work with. So I'm fed up. I was going to get another book, and I was going to get another of my basic. Let me just grab it and show you. These are the Sea Whites books. This is an English brand, so if you're in the UK, these are 10 a penny. Oh, massive spider. Hello, spider. Hello. No, you don't want to live there. Come Yeah, these are 10 a penny in the UK, but if in the US you might want something you might not be able to get sea whites, so you might have to look for like De La Rowney or a different brand or something like that. Blix probably do their own brand or something like that. So I had thought about getting one of these because they're the right type of paper and they're the right signatures and stuff, and just cutting it down across the bottom, just take an inch off the bottom and replace these signatures with this kind of paper, because I really like this paper to work on, or just getting one of these. But then I woke up, and then I woke up. Let me, oh, there we go. Then I got the next day's post, and you're all going to be very jealous because I have something really awesome to show you. Before you ask, yes, I've put a link. I found them, or rather other people have found them for me and sent me the links on Amazon UK, Amazon US, and also on things like AliExpress. They have them. Some of the wholesale stores have them. And the little ones you can get on eBay. So before you ask, go Google it, right? Because I'm constantly asked about these books. But the two that I'm about to show you are listed in my store, so it would show you exactly what to look for. So somebody sent me, well, let me start with this. Where is my little one? Most of you are familiar with this already. This is my regular journal. This is the Believe journal, little A6 one. Absolutely love it. It takes just about everything. I've done all sorts in this, pencil, pen. It takes everything but Copics, basically. Because the spine started warping when I got halfway, I was a bit worried about the spine going completely crazy. So I turned the book upside down and I've started from the back. So I'm doing October, November, December in this side, which will balance out the binding. This is called a Bible journal. It's blank paper. I don't know the weight. Don't ask me about the weight of the paper. It's Japanese, and the Japanese know how to use paper, okay? And it's called a Bible journal because it's very thin paper, but it takes most media. So you can use everything except alcohol inks, and very, very wet fountain pen tends to bleed or feather. But I have had no problem with it. A few people have said, oh, I use a certain type of fountain pen and it bleeds everywhere. Well, you know, if that's the case, change your ink or change your fountain pen is the answer to that. Use a different fountain pen or a different ink. I personally like to use either a dip pen or my, where is he? I don't know where my black one is, but I've got a brown one here somewhere. Here we go. I use my carbon ink pens. I've got several of these. They're very, very fine multi-directional nibs, which is great if you draw or if you are left-handed. And my other one has carbon ink in it, which is bulletproof ink. You can use it with alcohol markers, water markers. It's light fast, colour fast, fade proof, waterproof, alcohol proof, everything proof. It's bulletproof ink, basically. It's got a very, very fine nib. This has got sepia ink in it. And it's just water-soluble sepia ink. This one I keep water-soluble ink in so that it's easy to clean it out. You just run it through with water and dry it thoroughly. Distilled water, I might add. You know, the kind of drinking water that you get in bottles, not the stuff out of the tap, because it's got hard, scaly things in that will plug up your pen. But the other one I've actually got proper carbon ink in. And these are very cheap. You can get these on jet pens and Colt pens really easily. And that's what I normally use, and I've had no problems. So this is my regular journal. I adore this book. I absolutely adore it. I've been using this book since June. And for me to stick with one book, And even, you know, I did one book July in it, and then at the end of July, I automatically said, oh yes, I'm going to swap books now, go back to my Midori. And I couldn't put this one down. I have to finish it. So I'm really liking it. I want to get to the end of the year in it and then see what I'm going to do next. However, as I was saying, before I diverged myself, I was going to get another one of these to use as a book of shadows maybe, because it's like 470 pages. That's a lot of pages for a book of shadows, and I write really tiny. So for me, you know, look at the size of my writing. It's minuscule. So I would have no problem using this as a book of shadows. But then the postman came. And he brought me this. Oh yes. It's the A5 version. I had been looking online for an A5 version for months. I couldn't find one. I had resolved myself to thinking, well, maybe they're only in this 6x4.5 size. It's not A6, it's a little bit bigger. Maybe they're only in this size. But no. A5 size, babies. Exactly the same, 480 pages. Exactly the same. Black inside. It's even got the same misprint in the quote. The quote says, I believe that the most beautiful thing is worth waiting, and the sweetest fruit needs patience. Yeah, it doesn't have waiting for, it has just waiting, which is a misprint. So there's that. And I thought, you know what? I could use this for my Book of Shadows. There's my Book of Shadows. A5, 480 pages. How about that? And then I opened the other box. Look at this puppy. This one is 600 pages. Now, the paper is a little bit thinner, but it still takes... I've done some tests on it, and this is what we're going to do today, testing it out. I've done some tests, but, oh my goodness me, this takes everything that you can put on the other paper. Watercolour you have to be a little bit more careful with. You can't get it too wet because it will start to pill up eventually. But the way I watercolour, it's not really an issue. I use quite a thick layer of watercolour and then I colour over it with colour pencil. So unless you're a proper watercolour artist, it's not going to be a problem. But look at the inside. Look at all this lovely greying around the outside. This is exactly what I did with my other Book of Shadows. Now it does have lines, and I don't know if it'll pick up on the camera because the camera won't autofocus for you, but they're broken lines and they're very thin and they're grey. So they won't stand out very much. The paper is a little bit whiter than the blank, so this is more cream coloured. This is more the colour of an old moleskin, and this is more the colour of a new moleskin. Okay, this is 600 pages, this is 480 pages, so it's got 120 pages more, but it's exactly the same size. The only thing I don't like about it is I wish this had been silver instead of grey. It's grey and it's not metallic. This one, it looks like a Bible, which is what it's for Bible journaling, so, you know, that kind of works. And I've mentioned this before, I like the idea of having my Book of Shadows look a bit kind of Bible-ish, or, you know, spiritual bookish. You know, you buy a Quran or a Torah or a Old Testament or any version of the Bible, it's prettified. It's got gilded edges, it's got nice covers, things like that. You know, it's not necessarily leather or anything like that, but it looks nice because they're very often gifts. So I do wish this was silver, and I may try and make it silver. Maybe I can do something to make it silver without sticking the pages together. But other than that, I love it. Now, it is lined, but those lines are so... I think I could work with those easily, even to draw over them. I don't think it would be a problem. For me personally, it's wide ruled, so it's... I think it's 8mm. Let me check. It is. Oh. Let's find one where the numbers haven't worn off. Yes, it's 8mm depth, which is in Americanese. 1/3 of an inch. 3 lines to an inch. So it's not college rule. But exactly, Caitlin, the lines are just a suggestion. They are not so heavy that you couldn't just ignore them. Now, this paper is a little bit thinner, but everything I've thrown at it so far, it has taken perfectly well. So, given that this is exactly the same paper as my journal, and I have thrown everything at this paper other than oil paint and acrylic inks is the only thing I don't use on it. You can use markers, but it doesn't feather. It doesn't feather sideways. It bleeds through. Markers bleed through anything except marker paper, obviously. But you could still, put something underneath here, draw on this page, colour it with markers, and then on this page stick something over it so you can't see that it came through. Or if you did something like a rose design in markers, again, cover this page so that it doesn't seep through, do your rose design, and if you do it well enough, it'll actually come through identical on the other side, and all you've got to do is outline it. So you could have a whole page that's front and back, a really pretty design, to separate out sections, and then just stick a tab on it and you're done. So you can use it to your advantage as long as you're careful. This particular one, I've used acrylics, I've used watercolours, I've used everything on it. It takes everything, I love it. I have yet to decide whether I'm going to use the blank one as my journal or the blank one as my book of shadows. I rather like the idea of having the lined one as my book of shadows, purely because I don't have to do all this edging, which is what I really wanted on my book. This, for anybody who's got small writing like me, because this is 8mm, you can get 2 lines to it. And I did try it out. I've lost my bit of paper now, but if you get a bit of paper and draw out your 4mm lines, your college ruled lines, and put it underneath, you can actually see through the paper well enough to see the lines. So you could write on it easily. Let me show you. Actually, let me grab one of these colouring books. That'll probably be easier to see the lines. So if you took the lines, your lined page, I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but certainly I can see, I could trace over her face easily onto here. So it's certainly good enough for just putting lines underneath. So, obviously that means I have to try some inks and things. Now, I have a variety of inks and pens. I do not have every pen on the market. But I do have a lot of different pens, and I've tried quite a few of them already. I also have a big thing of ink, and I've got some extra inks because lovely Lali, is she here? Is Alex here? Lovely Lali sent me another set of inks. We've been swapping inks. Well, she's been sending me inks, and I'm supposed to send them back, but I can't find these containers anywhere. I've got all sorts of different diamine inks and stuff like that here. So I thought we could try those. I've also got my lamp black ink, but that's been resealed, so I don't want to use it. But I've got my carbon ink. I've got black and white acrylic ink that we can try. And I've got all these beautiful new colours that she sent me, which I haven't checked. I haven't even opened it yet to see exactly what type of inks they are. So that's what we're going to be doing in part 2, is trying out some of these and testing it. I will basically show you what I do in my books when I get them, which is this. Let me just grab the other book. Because it's right at the beginning. They do lie flat in the middle, okay? They lie perfectly flat. But at the beginning, for the first few pages, you've got a big gap until it reaches over, okay? So I just put another book underneath it, just to get a flat page. You don't need a book to lie flat, you need a book to open flat. Don't forget, if you're writing to me, because I'm not really watching the chat, if you're writing something specifically to me, you need to put it in caps. But I have noticed Caitlin is spewing out ideas there, so keep an eye on what she's suggesting, because she's got all sorts of ideas for these kind of books. The regular blank one is a book of recipes, yes. This one, actually, one of the reasons I love this is because if you halved this, this is exactly like the journals that my grandmother left me, which had basically all her kitchen witchery in. It wasn't called kitchen witchery, but it was kitchen witchery, you know, which herbs to use and how to make a salve, and, you know, what to use for insect bites and medicinal purposes and things like that. It was basically a herbal. And if you cut this in half, it would be, that's what her books would be like. And I've got 3 of them. So that's one of the reasons I absolutely adore this book. If you're not going to put a huge amount in it, I mean, I've got all sorts of stuff stuck in here, that's why it's bowing. But if you're just going to write in it, it would be fine. Okay. The little one's really getting nice and chunky. I love it. Oh, caps. Am I going to make the doll? Yes, I am going to make the doll. I just haven't had time to do it yet. And I don't, it's not quick enough project to do in a 2 or 3 hour show. So, yeah, I don't think it's something that I can do on a live show. But I can film it, you know, do bits of it. But I just haven't had time. So I've already done these. Now what I do, on the back, oh, one difference is the lined one has a white front page, which I didn't like at first, but now it's occurred to me that actually you could decorate this, or doodle it, or colour it, or, you know, put scrapbook paper on it, or something, tissue paper, whatever. Tissue paper would be nice, actually, because you get a show-through of the design. In the front and back of a book, you always have the useless page. Now, the useless page is not useless. The useless page is A, keeping the frontispiece on and attaching it to the rest of the book, because this piece is not bound into the book, it's separate, it's stuck here, and then it's stuck along this part of this page as well to keep it on. And also, it helps keep the book block aligned in the corners by sticking it to this piece, so that when you open it, it doesn't flip-flop about, and it doesn't, you know, it doesn't put stress on this corner when you open it. But it's still a useless page. You don't ever want to take this page out. What I normally do with this page is either I just give up and stick it down, just to reinforce it and make it stronger, so it becomes just one. I've been known to tape it along the edges and put a cutout in it to make it into kind of a little slip folder to put things into. You could also tape it along the edges and do it at the top, so it could be a thing that you slid papers into that way if you prefer. There's all sorts of uses for this flap at the front. However, at the back, what I do, because there's a matching one at the back, well, you want to see how your inks work, but you don't want to see the mess that is things bleeding through the back. So I always use the back of that page, or rather the front of the page, looking at it from the front of the book. I use this page for testing materials, and then you don't normally see that bit of the page where it soaks through if it's going to bleed. Now look at all these. None of them bled except the Copics, the alcohol markers, and even that didn't bleed completely. I wrote that quite heavily and it still didn't bleed completely through. So I'm pretty impressed with that. Excuse me, I've got a dry throat, I need to grab a drink. Can I ask also, if those of you who are here, if you've got social media available, like Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and you've got friends or whatever, or followers who might want to come and watch, please do tweet it out, or, you know, send out the link or whatever, because I don't have the ability to do that. I use a Mac. Macs can do one thing at a time and do them very, very well. At the moment, my Mac is streaming. It's not going to do anything else. And it would be rude to stop in the midstream and grab my phone and start tweeting about the show that you're already sitting here watching. So if you wouldn't mind sharing the link, that would be very kind of you, especially if you've got friends who are of a similar persuasion to you who want to play. These are the inks that I've already tested. Now, obviously, you're not going to be able to read these, so I'm going to have to read them out to you. This is Koi watercolours, and I literally just used a watercolour brush. This is the Zig brush by Kuretake. Again, it's in my A-store. The link is further up in the chat. I will also put it in the replay link. And I don't squeeze water out of it. I just dip it into the paint and you write with it. And that was watercolour just written and coloured written and coloured normally. And then I did a wash with it. And as you can see, hopefully, it didn't even buckle, it didn't come through, it didn't, you know, normally if you did that on a piece of paper, thank you, Eve. That's the link to my A-store if you don't have it. Thanks for the retweet, Patty. If you put watercolour on, you'd get kind of a bowl effect in the paper. If you know what I mean. It'd be like the paper stretched almost. Well, that's what the paper does, it stretches. It would be like the paper stretches and it buckles and you get a little patch that was kind of wibbly and the rest of it would be fine. Well, this didn't even do that. It did start pilling just a tiny bit, but not enough that it would cause a problem for me particularly. I would quite happily do this, and then it's just got a little bit of tooth, so it would be great for colouring pencils. Then I used my carbon ink pen, my platinum carbon ink pen. That didn't bleed through. My Sharpie pen, now that is the Sharpie pen, not the Sharpie, not a alcohol Sharpie. The Sharpie, this one, the no bleed pens. These are the ones that basically only bleed through Filofax paper because, frankly, paper bleeds through, pencil bleeds through Filofax paper. This is the actual Sharpie pens with the fine points. That didn't bleed through. And I always do it so that I colour a section, like a square, and then I write. And I write normally. I try to write normally, which is why I write the full name of the pen, because even if you write a bit weird on the first word, by the time you get to the second and third, you've usually got into the flow of writing normally. Again, none of it bled through. None of it. Love it. My Lamy Vista in purple. Now, I can't use my Lamy Vista in purple with the Lamy ink. I don't know why I keep looking up there. All my pens are down here. I pulled them out earlier. Where's my Lamy? Where's my Lamy? Oh, you know what Lamy Vista looks like. It's a big, thick, chunky kind of kids' school pen type thing. And it's very wet ink. It's not the wettest ink. No, it's not the wettest pen. It doesn't feed a load of ink through like the Twisbys, for instance. But Lamys are known for being quite saturated. That didn't bleed through. So basically that's the three pens that on Hobonichi paper or Toma River paper take a little bit longer to dry. I actually use a heat gun on mine in my Hobonichi because I just find it frustrating having to wait for it to dry. Pilot Juice pen. That is... Where are all my pens? I had them all here earlier. Oh, there's my Lamy. It was sitting right on top. That's why I couldn't see it. It was cleverly hidden in plain sight. This is a very chunky nib, even though it's an extra fine. And it feeds through a lot of ink. This Lamy ink is very dense. Pilot Juice pen. Here's my Pilot Juice pen. So this is a wet gel pen. Pilot pens, unless you've got a very, very, very old, and I'm talking like back from the 80s, version of the Pilot V5, which is the only one they ever made in non-water-soluble ink. All of these are water-soluble. So you could actually use this to do a line or do a line drawing, for instance, like this. Shade it in. A bit of cross hatching. Water brush. And with a nice bit of shading without adding too much colour. So if you're the kind of person who wants your book of shadows to be very uniform all the way through and not overly colourful, then you could just pick one pen that you really like and use that for all your drawings and everything, and just add a bit of water when you want a bit of shading. Sorry, it's blowing out a little bit, isn't it? It's not really picking up on the lights very well. There you go, you can see the shading there now. While I've got my water brush in my hand, the same goes for the Pilot G-Tech C4 and the Calito. These are also water soluble. Basically, if it's a Pilot pen, unless it says otherwise, specifically that it's waterproof, then it will shift with water. That's not to say that it's a watercolour pen. It just means that if you get it wet, it will do that. It's easier to see in the blue. Papermate Flare. Now these are a 1mm nib, which is a bit too thick for me. They are known, sorry, this is the 0.7, it's the medium. These are known for being exceptionally wet, and they bleed like crazy. Again, absolutely no problem in this book. Didn't bleed. Not even, it didn't even ghost. That's even better, because these didn't even ghost. Where I've added water on those two, it's ghosting a tiny bit. Tiny, tiny little bit. It's not bled through, and you can't really see it from the back, so it's not ghosted. It's fab. Now, I've never tried this Pilot Flare in my other one, so let me just grab this one. I also have a pen testing page in here, as you can see. Oh, I have tested the Papermate Flare in there. Oh, okay. So Papermate Flare. Yeah, it didn't bleed through in here either. This is all basically the same pens. That one you can see bled through, that is a Copic. That one bled through, that is the Staedtler Triplus, which they tend to bleed through everything anyway. That one bled through, which I believe is the Pilot brush pen. Yes, the brush pens feather, so Sumi ink doesn't work. That one bled through a tiny bit, that is the Stabilo 0.88s, and my Lamy Vista feathered on this paper. So on this heavier drawing paper, the Lamy Vista feathered, but it's not horrendous. It's not going to pick up on camera, I don't think. It's not horrendous, but there is a bit of feathering. If you're a purist about your inks, then you're not going to like it. But on this one, it didn't feather at all. Presumably with this being lines and a bit thinner, it's proper writing paper as opposed to sketching paper, which is generally a little bit rougher. This is much smoother weave. And then I've got Pigma Micron, which is the permanent waterproof kind of drawing pens that most people like to use, and again, no bleed. So that is pretty awesome. Any questions about these Believe journals, or using them, or anything like that before we get cracking on having a play? Or any questions about anything else? Let me just scroll up the chat a second. No, I haven't missed anything, okay. Whoops. Okay, I'm just putting this here as a marker so that I know when the live feed catches up to where I am. Because I think what I'll do, it's starting to get a little bit shaky now, so I'll probably stop this stream and restart it. Because I find after sort of an hour and 20 minutes, hour and a half, it starts flaking out. So I think the best thing to do is to stop it here. We can all go and get a coffee and stretch our legs, and I'll come back in 10-15 minutes and restart the stream. If you want to leave it open on the page, when I come back and start streaming again, it should, in theory, automatically log you in and start streaming again. Because I'm not resetting the stream or anything, I'm literally just stopping the stream and starting it again. So it should just log you back in. But if you're here in 10 minutes time, let's say past, because it's almost 20 past now, let's say past. If you're here at past and you can't see me, then that means you need to refresh your screen. Okay, so I will leave it a couple of seconds for this to catch up with me, and then I will stop the stream and restart at past.